is the Executive Director of the National LGBT Nonprofit Organization, DADT Globe, and also has 30 years of experience in the Department of Defense. I'd like to present Lisa Kove.
Hi everybody. I want to tell you a little something. I was born gay. First off tonight, I'm going to be speaking based on my opinion as the Executive Director of DADT Globe, and it is not my intent to reflect the views of my employer, the Department of Defense. I am a military veteran. I served honorably. I actually served with an injury and ignored the pain and ended up with a very serious disability later on. I then worked as a contractor for the Department of Defense and then later on as a civil servant, and I still work for them as a senior civil servant. The bottom line is that people in the Department of Defense cannot contain the prejudice that don't ask, don't tell causes and get it to stop and partition it at just the uniforms. What don't ask, don't tell teaches everyone is that there is an inferior group of people, that group is the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community. And that is a big lie. It is definitely wrong thinking. It is not correct. When I was in the military in 1980, I accidentally saw a report about somebody who was getting kicked out then, before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, for being gay. And the thing that caught my eye, this was before I realized I was gay, because I was lying to myself at that time, was that the key characteristics they look at to determine if somebody is gay is that they are an overachiever. Well, most of the companies in this nation want overachievers. So if they won't take you in the Department of Defense as an openly gay service member, there's plenty of people in Silicon Valley that will take you. Now, this particular presentation is on the website for DADT Globe and is downloadable so that you can teach the things you see in here. And you can teach it. You can download this briefing, but it won't have this first page. You can then tailor it to your organization or whatever you want to call yourself. Because we believe in grassroots activism where you train the trainer, and tonight all of you are trainees. And we expect all of you to take this knowledge and share it with others. Because, you know, fighting prejudice is everybody's job. I'm going to talk about these things so you know how to talk about them. What you see here is based on my research, because I also work on hate crimes, and I've actually researched human rights violations. So the things you see in here took time to come up with. And this is about the causes of discrimination, right? And everything takes you to discrimination. That's how you have to understand this. Now, when you look at this, you see competition for power, prestige, and positions, and that takes you to discrimination. But what takes you to this is the political, economic, and social influences. All these things are inputs that get you to discrimination, including things like structured institutional inequalities. You see these? And you see traditions of prejudice stereotypes. People are not born prejudiced. It is taught. And there was no way for any of you to avoid this teaching. And those people that see others as inferior and themselves as superior, they were taught that. It's not their fault. But the beautiful thing is, we can teach people there's a better way, in a peaceful way where they don't feel threatened. It's important to know that it's not their fault if they're prejudiced, because they were taught from all these many inputs. Now over here you see low motivation skill amongst the oppressed. You see feeding into that resentment and extra legal protest. That's kind of where the gays are today. We're at that extra legal protest, and we're also at resentment. Because we know that we are valuable members of this nation, and we do not deserve to be treated unequally. We deserve just what everybody else deserves. And that's all we're asking for. And our families deserve to be respected. And right now they're not. So when you see this, and you realize all these things, and you realize that sometimes people say things that are very wrong, remember that they were taught that, but they can be taught a different way. This is cycle of discrimination, and I created this. And what you see is it increases in intensity till you get to this point of confrontation. Eventually, those that are in the oppressed group confront those that oppress them. And when that happens, change happens. And there's two ways change can happen. One way is the people that feel they're superior will resist the change, and another way is the people that feel they're superior will actually do active listening, and they will actually try to work with you. Right now in society, we have a combination of both for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community. People are listening, and people are also fighting us. But eventually, all civil rights battles result in a win for those that are oppressed, because negativity can never last forever. As we know, people used the gay community and our marriages, our families, in order to win elections in this nation. And then, between the two major parties, they were fighting about who dislikes gay marriage more. Well, not only were they insulting our families, but they were also insulting all the families of all the single mothers out there. And it was wrong, and it was cruel, and it was hurtful. Now, it's easy in the short term to get people united over negative things like hate and prejudice, but it doesn't last forever. It takes a lot more work and a lot more time to unite people over love, respect, and treating people with dignity. But once that is done, there's no turning back. And so this is important because as Dr. King said, there are no superior or inferior people. Do we all agree with that? These are the influences that can strengthen or weaken the cycle of discrimination. Now, curing discrimination here in the US is not enough. We are part of a global society, and now that society is closer than it's ever been because we have the internet. So all of you have Facebook friends in other nations, don't you? And so it's important that what we do here and what we do in our own locations, we do elsewhere, and that we have to think of the big picture. Now, when there is discrimination, it can be increased by these risk factors. There's more inequality being pushed out there. Roles and responsibilities. We give all the good, high-paying jobs where you don't have to work that hard to this other group. But to the group that is treated in an unequal way, we give them the crummy jobs where you work real hard and you barely make minimum wage. And then that creates what I consider privilege, power, and prestige. It is easy, through hate, through prejudice, to obtain power, to obtain prestige, and to become very wealthy. And is that fair? Is that fair that people use humanity and treat certain people in an inferior way and then they gain profit from that? No, it's not. But the way to stop it is education, these mitigating factors. And the reinforcement of stereotypes that you see there, that happens all the time. How many people have heard certain stereotypes? I want to see hands. How many people have heard stereotypes that were negative to any group? Come on, let's hear some things. Go ahead, say it. Yeah?
Does it have to be about the LGBT?
No, it could be about anything.
Mexicans are, they're usually illegal. A lot of people think they're illegal.
We've all heard that one. And you know what's interesting? Within 10 years, what do you think the majority is going to be in this nation? The Hispanic community. Which, by the way, they're about 50-50 between being Republican and Democrats. I just thought that's interesting as well. Now, when we increase opportunities and diversity, that means we open the doors for everybody, that they can all get this college education. That increases their ability to get prestige and profit as well, but for good reasons. Not just because they're going to school, but because they're working hard and they're earning that. And not because they're saying anything negative, because they're not. They're going based on positives. And then they get recognition and they get acceptance. And the key to getting prejudice mitigated, the most important thing, is education. And that education is so important. People of this generation, you can educate people in the lower school levels, like the high schools, the middle schools, the elementary, and you can teach them to do these things too. It's important to spread the wealth of knowledge and diversity, not just for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community, but all the communities. We have to build bridges. That is how we make positive change. And that's what the change that we really need. Not some change that somebody says, I promise you I'm going to give you change, and then nothing happens. But the real change happens at the grassroots, where all of us work together and help teach other people, other generations, that there is a better way, and that wrong teaching they heard about this group or that group was not correct, that everybody is equal. Stereotyping is one of my favorite topics. And stereotyping is dehumanization. And basically it's simplistic, the justifications are very unfair, and it's used all the time, and it's a tradition. This type of prejudice is traditional, and we have all been taught this. I come from a family in New York, and we're Jewish, and we were taught, things that I, of course, said, no, I'm not going to buy that very early on. We were taught not to ever date anybody outside of the religion. In fact, interesting story. My parents had my life completely planned out before I was in nursery school. My father is a Harvard-educated attorney. And so what their plan was that I would go to Harvard too and get an education in law school there as well, and meet a nice Jewish guy also going to Harvard, also getting a law degree, but that I would never use that law degree and I'd just have nice Jewish babies. Boy, did I screw that plan up. So, we've all been affected by things that our friends, family, neighbors, and institutions we're associated with, schools, religious entities, jobs, have taught us. And we have got to be better than that, and we have got to treat everybody just the way we want to be treated. And even those people that when they first see you, they think, oh my God, you're gay, and you might be wearing on a queer shirt or something, they're a little upset. But the truth is, and there's been analyses about this, is when we have those one-on-one conversations and they get to know us, they like us. Because we're all people, and that's what we have in common. There's this thing called equal opportunity, and it's a commission. Have any of you ever heard of it? EEOC? Okay, let's see some hands. All right. Now, for federal employees, both military and civilian, as well as employees of other organizations outside, EEOC is really important. Because if you feel like you're being treated differently, and we call that disparate treatment, you feel like you're not whole, you're not equal. And so that's the concept of whole, is being equal. So when you go and you complain in the EEO process, they ask you, what will make you whole? They'll get all your information and your evidence of why you think you're being treated that way. And they'll say, well, what will make you whole? What will fix this? And a lot of people don't understand it, including the EEO counselor who's asking you the question, interestingly enough. Now, when people feel superior, they are weighted down. It's not a happy place to be, because when you're superior, you've got stuff you've taken from others, and it's very heavy. And hate hurts. Have any of you ever seen somebody who was yelling profanities and very prejudiced? Did they look happy? No, they're not happy. So hate hurts the hater, and you've got to remember that. It's very heavy to lift that load. And those people that are treated inferior, they feel like they're missing something. Maybe they're missing something economically, maybe they're missing something where, you know, they can't get the opportunities they need, they're not going to get that promotion, they're not going to get into college, or maybe they can't even get to be citizens in a nation that they served for 20 years in the armed forces because they were from another country originally and they were not granted citizenship after defending that nation for an entire lifetime. That's not fair, and it feels prejudice because it is. So they're missing pieces of themselves, and the ones that feel superior are weighted down by all that negativity that they're holding. You know, and that's not a comfortable place to be. The best place to be is for all of us to be equal, to feel whole.